there's an old saying in Hollywood. If all you can get is Dean Cain, you are fucked.
The fact that I'm being, pilloried or attacked for joining up with a federal law enforcement agency is insane.
And now we've got ICE agents and apparently former Superman actors are going to jump out of vans and nab them?
I'm not untrained. I've been a sheriff's deputy for almost 10 years.
I don't think the fact he's been an actor or footballer or Superman or anything else makes any difference.
You're going out and you're villainizing myself. You're going out and you're villainizing these ICE agents who are trying to uphold the law.
I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor.
Pam Bondi doesn't have any experience managing a police department any more than Dean does as an ICE agent.
Well, deportation raids carried out by ICE have become a major flashpoint in US politics and culture. Some heavy-handed and badly managed deportations have taken the gloss off President Trump's decisive action to close the southern border, sparking protests here in Los Angeles and drawing criticism from the likes of Joe Rogan. Now, amid the fire and brimstone, it's only fair to point out this administration is currently deporting less than half of the monthly total deported under both President Obama and Biden. That's because it's much harder to find and deport illegal immigrants who have been in their communities for years than it is to send them back across a border you had essentially left wide open. Recruitment may be the answer. ICE is offering a $50,000 signing bonus as pilloried by South Park, and its new signings include actor and former Superman star Dean Cain. But not everybody is impressed.
On the plus side, no need for that guy to wear a mask because the chances of anyone recognising him are fucking zero. There's an old saying in Hollywood. If all you can get is Dean Cain, you are fucked. Now, I'm not saying that ICE isn't finding people. I'm just saying, when you are reduced to pinning a badge on the 59-year-old star of the dog who saved Christmas, the dog who saved Christmas Vacation, the dog who saved the holidays, the dog who saved Halloween, the dog who saved Easter, and the dog who saved summer, maybe you are in trouble.
So has Dean Cain misjudged the public mood here, or is he the hero America needs in the quest for immigration justice? Well, actor Dean Cain joins me to speak for himself alongside the Bulwark commentator and host Tim Miller. Welcome to both of you. Dean Cain, your response, first of all, to John Oliver's attack.
Why does John Oliver hate dogs? So I did a lot of dog movies. Yeah, I've done over 200 movies. I've done tons of films and thousands of hours of television. John Oliver is making a point, I guess, that I'm 59 years old and I've joined ICE, but it has nothing to do with, go ahead and denigrate my career, which is weird. It's an odd thing to do. But what I'm doing is I'm standing up for the men and women of ICE. I'm a sworn deputy sheriff. I'm a reserve police officer. I have been for over a decade, or almost a decade now. And our ICE agents are being vilified. They're being attacked. They're being doxxed. And they're out there trying to do their job. They're doing the job that the American people hired them for, that Congress wrote the laws for. They're doing it very, very well. And I stood up there. I did a recruitment video for them. Everybody thought that I actually joined ICE. And then after the hullabaloo, I spoke with some ICE officials and I said, you know what? Why not swear me in? Let's do this. And I'm 100% proud to stand with our agents of ICE. I love these people. They're wonderful men and women and husbands and fathers of every ethnicity, every race, every background. And we've had over 100,000 or close to 100,000 applicants now. I'll happily take the jibes of John Oliver, who also said that it would be, that America doesn't want Donald Trump to run, to win, but they desperately want him to run. The same people that laughed at that sort of stuff and made the cheap jokes on Donald Trump's at his expense. Well, look who's in the White House right now. So it's just, you can make the cheap jibes and it's funny. And Bill Maher did it, and a couple of our congressmen did it too. But the fact that I'm being pilloried or attacked for joining up with a federal law enforcement agency is insane. I did it to protect Americans and to protect our men and women of ICE.
Tim Miller, welcome back to Uncensored. First of all, in terms of Trump's overall policy on immigration, do you applaud the success he's had in pretty much shutting down the southern border? And do you agree that any undocumented Americans who commit crimes in the United States should be deported? I mean, on those 2 points first, are you broadly in agreement with what they've done?
Sure. Good to be back, Piers. I knew you were going to ask this question because I got it the last time I was here. So I have a little bit of follow-up for you. Look, I think that obviously the border was too open under past administrations, and we need to have control over who's coming into the country and who's not. There was some progress on that actually in the last year. The Biden administration, Donald Trump as administration has advanced that further. I think having control of the border is something that makes sense. Deporting people that have committed other crimes, not just, we can discuss what we mean by crimes, but deporting people that have deported violent crimes, rather, as opposed to immigration crimes. Of course, we should deport people that have committed violent crimes. Here's the problem, though, which is why I just can't give him full credit. You don't actually want to be a country that nobody wants to come to, because that's where we're at now, where there is 0 border crossings, and that is actually not a good thing. I want to pull up here the list of the countries with negative net migration. That could be us this year. We're going to have negative net migration, more people fleeing America than coming. Some of the other countries that have that: Syria, Venezuela, Ukraine in the middle of being invaded, Pakistan, Sudan, China. That's not what we want. A growing country wants people to want to come here. We want people to want to fleeing communist countries to come to America. We're going to have negative population growth for the first time in this country. Other countries that have that: Russia, Cuba, Bulgaria. I don't aspire for America to be like Syria and China and Russia, where people don't want to go into their countries. We don't want to have a country that's fully locked down. And I disagree with Donald Trump's immigration policy across that board, because that's what's happening in this country. People are no longer coming here. It's not just the violent criminals that are being kept out. People that want to come, work hard, contribute to this country. That is what America has been founded on. That is, they pay lip service to that. They say we support legal immigration, but they're not allowing people into the country. We're going to have more people leaving America than coming for the first time in a while this year.
Can I please respond to that?
Dean Cain, I'll let you respond. I mean, the question I would have for you is, I think what's happened on the southern border is borderline, pun intended, miraculous. To go from millions of people in the Biden 4 years coming over every year illegally on the border to basically just a few thousand now, almost eliminating it completely, is a huge success for the Trump administration in a very short period of time. Big tick. I think that most Americans I've talked to are unanimous that they have no problem with undocumented people in the United States being deported if they commit a crime. Okay, so we can all agree on those things. But where I have a big problem with the further strategy of ICE, there just seems something so un-American about ICE going into places like Home Depot and grabbing people who may have been in the country for 10 years, who may have been contributing their taxes through gainful employment, contributing to society, maybe have kids that have been born in the United States. Grabbing those people and throwing them out of the country seems to be quite un-American to me for the reasons Tim articulated. And most of the polling I've seen suggests that at least 2/3, maybe more, of Americans agree that they think that's a step too far. How do you feel about that? I mean, are you comfortable with Home Depot being raided by ICE and people like that who've not committed crimes other than being in the country undocumented, being deported?
Well, let me ask you this question, Piers. What if you did that as a citizen in Europe? If I went to Europe and I stayed there and I was there for 20 years and I was undocumented, what would happen to me? I've had a home in Spain for 25 years.
My response to that would be that
I follow the immigration laws in Spain. I get stopped. I get stopped if I stay longer than 60 days in a 180-day period. All kinds of issues happen, and that happens in every single country. But let me get back to something real quick that Tim said, and I'll address that. The United States is the most immigrant-friendly, by far, country on this planet. We have over 50 million immigrants. Tim, just look at the numbers. More than the next 4 countries combined. We also let in 1 million people legally every single year. I don't think we really disagree that much. I'm sorry if you said something, I couldn't hear it.
I'm just saying not anymore. That's not what we're doing now under Donald Trump. I'm glad you like the immigrants are welcomed here, but right now we're going to have negative net migration. Negative.
Well, you're predicting something that isn't quite there. I'm sorry. I don't know if I was talking over you. I apologize.
No, continue.
Oh yeah. So yeah. Will we have negative net migration? Well, it depends. If you're gonna, negative compared to last year under the Biden administration, our immigration system, and I think we can both agree on this, is broken, and Congress needs to write laws to fix it. We want immigrants here in the United States, but we don't want people to be here illegal, and we don't want people crossing the border completely unvetted. And that's the big issue that was going on for the last 4 years.
But Dean, let me ask you, where do you draw the line?
Well, that's not for me to make that policy. That's up to Director Lyons and Congress. I mean, these are things that Congress should be dealing with, and they should make those laws, and then our ICE agents will dutifully perform those duties. I mean, they'll take care of whatever the law.
But you must have an opinion. You must have an opinion where that line should be drawn, because we all agree that the southern border being closed is a good thing. We all three of us agree that people who commit crimes when they're in the country undocumented, crimes that are not related to their immigration status, that they should be deported. So we've got broad agreement on those two big planks of the policy. The issue that Tim and I have is that we do not believe that just going into Home Depot and grabbing anyone who's undocumented is a particularly American thing to do, particularly if they've been in the country for a long period of time and built lives in America and are contributing to society and paying taxes and so on. So my question before I go back to Tim is simply, if you were helping them reframe the law, where would you draw the line in terms of who you would allow to stay and who you would deport?
Well, it sounds like you agree on policy but disagree on tactics. On tactics and the way they're doing it. The way they're rolling in. Usually...
No, I don't, because I don't agree with deporting everyone who's in the country undocumented. Do you?
Everyone who's in the country undocumented? Well, that is not my decision to make. But I know that if you're in any other country
but what's
undocumented,
your opinion?
My opinion is if you're here illegally,
but what's your opinion, Dean?
I'm trying to give it to you. If you're here illegally, you should have gone through steps to legalize your status. And there's been countless opportunities to do that. There has been tons and tons of opportunities to do that. And you broke the law when you came here. It's the same as in any other country. You've got to find a way to legalize yourself or self-deport, or else ICE will come and they will deport you.
Okay, Timothy, your response to that?
And this is crazy, what he's saying, and I disagree with the tactics and the policy. The tactics have been, again, brutal. I think that Dean Cain wants to turn the country into something that looks more like an authoritarian country. We have negative people coming in, people going out. We have people in masks. Look, Dean was on Fox the other night, and Jesse Waters asked him, "Will you hop out of ICE vans and start apprehending guys?" And Dean said he'd be willing to do that. This is crazy. This is not a TV show. Like, this is real life. The idea that somebody who is not trained would join ICE and join these guys that are putting on masks and jumping out of U-Hauls at a Home Depot and nabbing people, it's a horrible policy. It is un-American. It is not how we should treat people. It does not show a respect for individual rights in a free country. And the policy itself of deporting these people of deporting everybody that is here undocumented is a crazy policy. It would crush the economy. Donald Trump's even backtracking on this policy because his friends in the ag industry have called him and said you can't deport our ag workers. And then on top of that, not only is the policy bad, and not only tactics un-American of these masked thugs jumping out and grabbing people, but ICE is screwing up over and over again. They don't need more agents. They certainly don't need more untrained actors as agents. Right here in Louisiana, I'll just give you two. Madonna Kashanian, she's a 64-year-old Iranian grandmother. She came here as a student. She did everything that Dean said. She was trying to get asylum. The U.S. kept kicking the can on that. She kept going to appointments. She's gardening outside her home, and she gets picked up by ICE. She was in detention for a week. Jose Francisco Garcia Rodriguez, 73-year-old grandfather. He emigrated on a U.S. boat from Cuba and tried to get asylum. Had a paperwork mistake. Arrested by ICE, held for a week. George Redis in California, 25 years old, worked as a security guard, U.S. citizen. ICE grabbed him, held him for 3 days. And this, we can argue about this. This doesn't even get into the Venezuelans that we sent to CCOT, many of whom didn't come to the country illegally. They came legally. They sought asylum. They came across the border. And rather than sending them back to Venezuela, ICE and Kristi Noem sent them to a torture prison in a third country that they weren't even from. So, like, ICE does not need more untrained agents right now. ICE needs to learn how to follow the law and treat people who have not committed crimes with respect and with the rights earned.
Okay, but Tim, it remains the case. Hang on, Dean. I'll come to you. The thing I would say, Tim, to that, as I said in the intro, it remains a fact that the level of deportation so far in this Trump term are about half of what they were in the Obama and Biden administrations.
You alluded to it. That's because this is kind of one of these things that's, statistics, like lies, damn lies and statistics. Part of the reason for that was, as you said, the border was open. We can critique it, probably too open during the Biden-Obama administrations. When they're counting the deportations, that's people that come to the border, come across the border, get sent right back across. So it's easy to run the numbers up when you're doing that. The border right now is shut down, as you guys mentioned. So what they're now doing is going to get people from inside the interior of the country. That's much more challenging. And so they're spending all this money to get new ICE agents. People who are former actors, apparently, are going to come in and start helping with this. And the problem when you go into the interior of the country to start finding people is if you're just trying to get a quota, Stephen Miller set quota, you're going to end up nabbing people like George Redis, who is actually a citizen, or like Jimena Arias Cristobal, who was pulled over incorrectly, that they got the wrong car, and you're going to screw up. And
but it sounds to me... Okay, but Tim,
it sounds
to me,
you cannot just do a quota and send people to Alligator Alcatraz and send them away. Like it's more challenging. It's a hard.
But it's not. Okay, but it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that what critics would say of what you've just said is okay. So what is the difference in principle between somebody who comes over the southern border illegally and somebody who's come over a different way, or perhaps earlier over the southern border, but remains in the country illegally, notwithstanding the fact they may have built a life for themselves? If you're happy for people to be rejected immediately if they come over illegally, why would you be unhappy about them being held to account for being there illegally in a year, 2 years, 3 years? Uncensored is supported by OneSkin, a self-care business founded by scientists. Their patented OS1 peptide is scientifically proven to target aging at the cellular level. It's what powers their skin and sun care products. Now it's targeting age-related hair loss and thinning too. OneSkin Scalp Serum, OS1 Hair, is getting rave reviews, as you can read for yourself. And it's not just talk. OneSkin scientists did a clinical study showing that after 6 months, participants had significantly thicker and denser hair. If you're ready to give OS1 Hair a try, you can get 15% off your first 3-month supply with the code PEERS at oneskin.co. Are you ready to experience the best steak you've ever had? I know I am. That's exactly what you'll get with Uncensored sponsor, Riverbend Ranch. Unmatched flavor, tenderness and quality that turns an ordinary meal into something unforgettable. This is real American beef, born, raised and processed in the United States of America. Riverbend Ranch cattle have been carefully bred for superior genetics over the past 35 years. There's no shortcuts, no artificial growth hormones, no antibiotics, just real, honest beef, the way nature intended. Every steak is aged for 21 full days, the perfect amount of time for developing melt-in-your-mouth tenderness and a deep, savory taste. Why settle for the ordinary when you can taste the extraordinary? Order directly from riverbendranch.com and use the promo code PEERS to get $20 off your first order. That's riverbendranch.com, code PEERS, P-I-E-R-S. But be prepared, once you taste it, you will definitely be coming back for more. Once again, that's riverbendranch.com, code PEERS.
Well, sure, because you have to have a border, you have to have rules and controlling the country, right? I get it, and so we are where we are. But I would just point out, Piers, that a lot of the people who are being deported, again, didn't come over illegally. We're not talking about people across the Rio Grande. We're talking about either children, DACA kids that got brought here by their parents. We're talking about people that overstayed visas. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance have made a bunch of people illegal that weren't. because they came through asylum. Either Joe Biden or George Bush or Obama or even Trump actually himself in the first term gave people from a lot of countries, Venezuela, Cuba, etc., asylum, temporary protected status. Haiti, this was a big thing during the campaign. And so now they've taken away their status and they're like, self-deport or we'll deport you. So these people didn't come illegally. Like, they came through a legal process, and now we've got ICE agents and apparently former Superman actors are going to jump out of vans and nab them and hold them in deportation cells. That's insane. Like, that's not how you act in a free country. So no, I do think in a lot of these cases it is different. Like, a lot of these situations are complicated.
All right.
And they've tried to come legally.
They are. There is no doubt it is complicated. Dean, over to you.
Tim, I don't understand why you have to go, a former untrained actor. I'm not untrained. I've been a sheriff's deputy for almost 10 years. I've been a sworn sheriff's deputy and a reserve police officer. So I don't know why you're saying untrained. And by the way, when you join ICE, they train you. So to say that and try to denigrate because I'm an actor, I shouldn't be able to be concerned about what's going on with our borders or with our law enforcement agencies is denigrating. It's ridiculous. Should I say because you're a former Republican strategist, you have no say on anything? That's baloney. So first of all, discounting that, making a cheap joke, just like John Oliver or Bill Maher, anybody else. Let me finish my sentence. Let me finish my sentence. Let me finish my sentence, please. Let me finish my sentence, please. Denigrating somebody because they're doing this because of what they used to do or what they do, or whether they're an actor or a writer or a newscaster is ridiculous. It's an ad hominem attack. It's wrong. And there's been over 100,000 people who have put in applications for ICE. So clearly there is a desire for people to step up and serve this country.
Dean, if you show up at someone's, you said on Fox that you'd be if they sent you in, you'd be happy to jump out of a truck and go apprehend people. So if you show up at the door of someone's home as an ICE agent, which you're an ICE agent now, do you know what rights they have?
I'm not an ICE agent yet.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so you are an untrained former actor. You are an untrained former actor. I am a former actor. I'm a former professional football player too. So when I run down my resume, so it's stupid. I'm just telling a fact.
Yeah,
you're an untrained actor.
Denigrate it as though it's something negative. You denigrate it like it's something negative. Like you know what you're saying. So quit trying to gloss over it. It's ridiculous. It was snarky and it was stupid.
I'm telling you why it's negative because you don't know the job. You don't know the job. That's why it's negative. It's nothing.
You don't know that I don't know the job. You're just assuming. You didn't. Did you know I was a law enforcement officer?
I just asked you. Do you know what migrants' rights are? If you show up to someone's house as an ICE agent, do you know what rights they have? Do you know? They have
all the due process rights of anybody in this country.
Okay. So do you need a warrant signed by a judge to apprehend somebody?
This is ridiculous. I'm not a sworn ICE agent yet. It's
you were saying you were happy to jump out of vans and start apprehending people. You were bragging about that.
I will. And then you made it, of course. And I would if that's what the director asked me to do.
I'm going to say. Hang on. I'm going to say, of all the arguments to use against Dean Cain, I do find the kind of constant sneering that he was Superman and an actor. I do think that's irrelevant, actually. He's perfectly entitled, as an American citizen, to train up to be an ICE agent should he want to. And as he's made repeatedly clear, Tim, he'll only start being an ICE agent when he's completed that training. So I don't think the fact he's been an actor or footballer or Superman or anything else makes any difference. The fact he's been, as he said, a sheriff and other things in terms of law enforcement actually makes him more qualified than most citizens to train to be an ICE agent. And if he wants to be, then what's the problem? Why should we use his background as a stick to beat him with?
I can answer that, Piers. Are you not concerned that ICE has decided that they're just going to go on this recruitment campaign and start leveling up the amount of agents that are going to be masked? Going into Hispanic communities?
Well, no, I think
all that just
on the masking.
Well, hang on, we want trained people. We want trained on the masking. This is very hard. This is hard work, and we got to respect people's rights. And ICE is not doing that.
But nobody
and just leveling up really quick, hiring a bunch of people is not great. It's not going to help. That's a real concern. That's a legit concern that people who are not trained are going to be doing these jobs.
Sure. Two things I would say by way of response. One, I've not seen any evidence that people are going to be poorly trained to be ICE agents. They'll be recruited as they always have been and trained. Well,
ICE's
but
behavior
you're
so
talking
far
about
is enough
trained
evidence.
ICE
I mean,
agents.
they keep grabbing people.
I don't think wearing masks. I don't think yeah, but But my second point was we all know why they're wearing masks. It's because they're being doxxed left, right, and centre on social media and having their lives threatened.
No,
of course they are.
No. This is bullshit. This is bullshit. For starters, we have evidence ICE agents aren't being trained. It is really quick. Let's go back to George Redis. He arrived at work. He was a U.S. citizen. ICE agents surrounded his car. He identified himself as a U.S. citizen. They broke his window, pepper sprayed him, and dragged him out. He was in detention for 3 days. So we do have evidence that they're not being trained to respect people's rights. And on the masks, this is crazy. Do you know how many judges have been threatened? You know, if you're a judge and you have there's a case that is happening, you're a prosecutor, and you're targeting a murder suspect. These guys have been threatened. There have been judges whose families have been threatened. Their lives have been threatened. There are a lot of people in public life who have been threatened. You still don't get to wear a mask and be a secret judge. Not in a free country. You don't. I'm sure you get threatened. I'm sorry. If you're an agent of the government, if you're a representative of the people, you need to show your face and name yourself so that you have accountability. That is a totally reasonable ask. And so I have no sympathy.
Well, let me get Dean. All right, well, I'll get Dean to respond, but there is an irony, of course, that all the people who campaigned so aggressively for everyone to be masked during the COVID pandemic are now furious about the wearing of masks. Dean, your response.
Well, the reason, the unfortunate reason that they're masking up is because they are being doxxed. The attacks on ICE agents have gone up over 1,000%. Their families, you disagree with that stat?
No, I'm sure that, but look, that's what I'm saying. I'm sorry, if you work for the federal government, you cannot be a secret agent that nabs people.
No, do you disagree with the stat? I asked you specifically.
Okay, I'm saying it doesn't. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You still have to. You still can't be a secret thug cop in a free country. I'm sorry. You have to tell people.
They're not thug cops, and the fact that you're denigrating them and calling them these names and these things is part of the problem. And same thing with me standing up and joining ICE. You are going out there and you're villainizing. Let me finish my sentence, please. You're going out and you're villainizing myself. You're going out and you're villainizing these ICE agents who are trying to uphold the law. These are wonderful men and women. They shouldn't be attacked. Their families shouldn't be attacked. They're doing their job that Congress has given them the authority to do and written the laws for. If you don't like the laws, have Congress change them. We should be upset that all these congressmen aren't delivering a new legislation, a new legislative piece, talking about how these things should be dealt with. That should be the problem, but not doxing our ICE agents and not going down and just tearing them down and turning them into villains like many people have tried to do to me. They're not villains. These are wonderful people, and they're trying to protect Americans.
And also,
like, you're coming out with names. I'll give you names. Jocelyn Nungary. How about her? A 12-year-old girl killed in Houston by illegals. Was that okay? Do you care about her? Are you going to step up for her?
Of course not. Of course that's not okay. Of course
I do think yeah, but it's important, Tim, I think, just before you respond, it's very important to acknowledge that ICE are also apprehending a lot of very bad people in this process. I mean, indisputably, you can see the stories every day. So, yes, there are some that are getting through the net, which is unacceptable. I don't like the tactics of storming into Home Depot and rounding up random people who may be undocumented. But we shouldn't be too denigrating of what ICE is doing in removing bad people. That we should all be on the right side of.
I don't denigrate that, but I'm just saying in any job, there are people that are bad apples that act poorly. It's true about podcasting, news hosting, acting. Like, I'm sorry, when you have the force of the state at your hand, you have to be transparent about who you are. And allowing people to be masked and to rough people up without any accountability is just wrong. And what about that guy? I don't have his name in front of me. There's the older gentleman outside the IHOP in LA where you are, Piers, who got pepper sprayed, pushed to the ground, manhandled, thrown into a van. There was a video of it. His kids all served in the military. He hadn't filled out some of his paperwork. Is that the way that we treat people? It encourages bad behavior when guys get to wear masks and rough people up. So I'm sorry. Sure, obviously, I'm not denigrating all people that work for ICE, but there have been some very bad actions, and their treatment of some of the migrants has been wrong. And I think that adding in new people who are not trained for this, who have been riled up by the extreme rhetoric of some in this administration, I think that you're going to bring in people that care more about deporting people and getting back at the bad immigrants than they care about respecting people's rights.
Okay, let's just switch gears slightly. It's a similar theme. Donald Trump has today had a big presser at the White House in which he announced that the police in Washington, D.C. will now be under direct federal control and is going to deploy the National Guard to the streets of Washington to fight crime and clear the city of its homeless population. What do you feel about that, Dean Cain? Is that an overreach?
I don't know enough about that to really to make a strong statement, but I know that the crime in D.C. has been crazy out of control. It's not a very safe area, and that's unfortunate. Not just miles from the Capitol, but for any city. I'm someone who respects law and order, and there's been an absolute just a deluge of crime, people taking over streets, these street racing areas, things like that, and it's gotten out of control. So I think some law and order being installed or brought back to DC is probably a good thing, but I don't know enough about the specifics to comment intelligently.
Okay, Tim, let me just play a clip from Trump, Tim, before I come to you.
I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back. And they're screaming at them an inch away from their face, and then they start spitting in their face. And I said, you tell them, you spit, and we hit. And they can hit real hard. I'm going to see Putin. I'm going to Russia on Friday. I don't like being up here talking about how unsafe and how dirty and disgusting this once beautiful capital was.
Just to point out, he's meeting him in Alaska, an American state, of course, not Russia, as he mistakenly said there. But 800 National Guard members have been activated, Tim, and yet the Metropolitan Police Department statistics for DC show crime down in almost every category in 2025. Violent crime down 26%, property crime down 4%, all crime down 7%. And a US Department of Justice report says violent crime stats in the city are at a 30-year low. So what do you make of this?
I don't like it. I don't understand. Conservatives used to be a small government party. This is our instinct. Control is better, closer to a locality than it is from the national government. The idea that he said also in that press conference, I guess, that the DC Police Department is now going to report to Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi doesn't have any experience managing a police department any more than Dean does as an ICE agent. So this stuff is not serious. Okay, this is not serious, and I don't like the way that he denigrates the country either. It's like if a Democrat went out there and talked like that about things in Alabama, on this show, Piers, people would be up in arms, clutching their pearls about how the Democrats look down on Americans, et cetera, et cetera. Trump's out there trashing D.C., our once beautiful city. It's squalor now. D.C. isn't squalor. Go to D.C., go to Logan Circle, go to Georgetown, go to the Wharf. D.C. is beautiful. Yes, there's crime. Yes, I'm sure that there are legitimate reforms you could bring to, bring more law and order to the city. There's some discussion of some reforms about treating like these carjackers who are under 18 as adults. I'm open to changes like that. The idea that the federal government should take over a local city's police department, I just think that's dangerous, not conservative, and I don't think it's based on any actual serious effort to try to resolve policy changes. I think it's a power grab.
I mean, Dean, I always think part of what Trump does with these things is he wants it to be as much of a deterrent as anything else. I do think one of the reasons why the southern border has been so dramatically slowed in terms of people coming over it is because there is a sense that Trump is being exceptionally tough on the southern border, and that is acting as a deterrent. Do you think part of what his strategy here in D.C. is to send a message, we're just not going to put up with this anymore?
I think 100%, and I think it'll be very effective. No question about that. And the reason that I think the crime statistics that you cited are down, and there's a lot of talk about this, is that they have been underreporting or not reporting crime. Same as California, same as so many other places. Tim, you might shake your head, but it's certainly an arguable point. And that they're saying that those crimes haven't been reported. Would you feel comfortable walking around at 2 o'clock in the morning in D.C. in certain areas? I mean, I don't know, but it's really close to the Capitol. It's not just some random city. And I think by doing this, you'll watch crime get cut right down. And if you're not doing anything that's wrong, if you're hanging out, going to a restaurant or going to a bar or doing whatever you're going to do, you're not going to have a problem with these law enforcement officers or the military, or whatever it happens to be that he's using. But the streets will be safe. And I think part of it is that deterrent factor.
Okay, look, we've run out of time. I want to just end with a clip from South Park about Kristi Noem, just so we can lighten the load. Kristi Noem has responded by saying it's so lazy to just constantly make fun of women for how they look. I think she's slightly missing the point there. I think the point about South Park is it is savagely, ruthlessly funny about everybody in public life, and she's just copying a bit of what they give everybody else, and long may they continue to dish it out. Gentlemen, Thank you both very much indeed for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Piers.
Thanks, Piers. Thanks, Tim.
Piers Morgan Uncensored is proudly independent. The only boss around here is me. If you enjoy our show, we ask for only one simple thing. Hit subscribe on YouTube and follow Piers Morgan Uncensored on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And in return, we will continue our mission to inform, irritate and entertain. And we'll do it all for free. Independent, uncensored media has never been more critical, and we couldn't do it without you.